Hello and welcome again. This is my second video about my dwarfs and my continuing mission to change them into chaos dwarfs. In this video I thought I'd go over just where I stand at the minute, maybe a little bit of what I've got planned, possibly some of the lore for my dwarves as well. I've always loved creating my own stories and stuff, and Warhammer's always been very good for an outlet for that, in all fairness, and it's not something I've done in some time. So here we are again. I have my cutting board, I have my boxer dwarves at the back, glue and clippers, and today's watching is going to be Lethal Weapon. So I've actually watched all of the YouTube channel I was watching. New additions to the team. I managed to get myself some curved files, army painter ones. I got them off of eBay. Now the reason I wanted these is the same thing as I said before, is that I wanted something that could get into the nooks and crannies. They do look good. I tried them very quickly last night when I got them. They seem quite good. The important thing about them for me is that the file is on the inside of the curve as well. So they're going to really help me get in there and clear off all the little bits that I possibly couldn't do before, with any luck. So that was all. Yeah. Right, so I'm just going to start you with the previous dwarf. So I gave him a bit of a spray this morning, so my house is unfortunately smelling like paint, which is, you know, one of those things. But he's actually a bit dry. There we are. Trying to work with a bit better lighting as well. I am getting a stand, a tripod for my phone, so hopefully that should work soon. After giving him a bit of a once over with the paint, oh come on, you want to focus. Well, actually doesn't look too bad compared to how obviously I left him. It's not. A bit more hope than I had, certainly. And yeah, even the eyes look okay. Actually, still quite a mess even with the paint on it, but yeah. So I mean, I'm not going to be painting today because I've got my setup for the modelling rather than the painting. But that's just that how he is at the minute. So the plan is actually to go over the raised lines. You can see them very well. Plan is to go over the kind of raised lines in hush up copper. I forget some of that. The chainmail, I'm thinking of doing a kind of blood red or wine red. I think I said this before, to be honest with you. But yeah, so go over all little raised areas, leave the bits in the middle. Even the eyes doesn't look terrible. Right, so yeah, anyway. I've already picked up part for one of my next big projects as part of the army. And it's, let's move this box doors out of the way. You'll be able to see this box back here, the call. We had a range of toys come in where I work, and they're like a G.I. Joe style toy, and they've done really, really well. But I saw this guy. This is the anti-air patrol one. So you're like a kind of G.I. Joe kind of Jeep sort of thing. Now, my idea is to turn these bits here. I was going to get two of these toys. I don't think I'll need them now. Essentially cut these bits off at the back and turn them into Death Shrieker rocket launchers. So as you can see, I'm just going to saw down the middle there. I have some plasticard, and then I'm probably going to take the front bit of the Jeep off as well. Maybe use it as like a housing for the battery bit at the back. The wheels and such could work quite well for that as well. So, I mean, obviously the scale is kind of, that's the dwarf in comparison to the missile launcher. So it's going to be huge. I am a little bit worried it's going to be too big. However, I'm going to be using ogres as crew. Like I have a couple of the dwarves modern up to like whipping the slave ogre, and have the ogre kind of carrying these missiles just kind of come out. They'll be super. I'll leave kind of one out, so he's kind of dragging one in to put it in. I think that might look cool. I mean, there is already there's already models for a Death Streak rocket launcher, of course. That's the big thing, is that there is already models for them. But as I've stated before, I can't afford the Forge World models for them. Plus, I mean, I'm not a massive fan of the crew on it. The have the kind of pointy hat, kind of wizard hat look to them, which I've never been a massive fan of on Chaos Dwarves. The old Chaos Dwarves with the tall Russian style hats. Bear with me just a second, guys. Yeah, the old Chaos Dwarves with the tall Russian style hats, I can never really get on with. But yeah, so I am going to be using this if I can. If I can't, it's not wasted too much. I mean, it was only £8, so it's not too bad at the end of the day. But yeah, so that's kind of where I am at the moment. Bear with me, guys. Hey, sorry about that. I was having trouble with the phone. I'm not using a phone stand. I'm using the kind of... It's one of those hands-free things that you use for doing models and such. My friend got me a few years ago for my Christmas present, I believe it was. So it's not ideal, but I do use that normally anyway for the model bits, but for my painting, because my hands sometimes shape. Anyway, but yeah, so that's the kind of idea I'm going to do. And what I'm going to do with the Death Shrieker guy, maybe use the 2 pods, use some plasticard, build a kind of stand for them. And like I said, have like them whipping the slave ogres and such. You see, my dwarves, the original idea behind them was that they survived the Age of Chaos, as it were. You see, to go a bit into the lore of it, I mean, for those who don't know, Age of Sigmar is the replacement to Warhammer Fantasy Battle. That was brought out a few years ago due to poor sales of Warhammer Fantasy. So they ended it, essentially, and brought Age of Sigmar out. And in the lore of Age of Sigmar, there's essentially 3 times. There's the time of myth, when Sigmar created the world, found the new gods for the worlds, and the people spread out amongst the realms, because each of the realms in Age of Sigmar is based on one of the old kind of winds of magic. So you've got like the realm of death, the realm of life, the realm of fire, and so on. My dwarves originally, my normal dwarf army, spread out into actually the realm of fire, and they found a volcano which was called Crag Kolzul. They call it Crag Kolzul, and they set up residence on it mainly because around the area there was a metal. Obviously, it's just me making everything up. There was a black iron, and they became known as the Black Iron Dwarves. They chose to stay there because this iron was like tougher than some of the strongest metals that they could find elsewhere. It was believed by them to be tainted at one point with magic, or covered in magic, essentially. So the dwarves tempered it and controlled it, as dwarves do, because they don't practice magic themselves. They have wizards, they use runes and such. So they controlled it, and then essentially during after the Age of Myth, the Age of Chaos came, which was when Sigmar fought Chaos and had to flee back into his own realm of the heavens and close the doors because everything was getting messed up, basically rampaging around and getting messed up. Chaos was destroying quite a bit. The original idea was that my dwarves were survivors of this because they had stayed in their hold. They hadn't retreated into the heavens, and they'd basically been besieged by Chaos. And the only reason they survived is that there was tribe of ogres, which they made a deal with to essentially protect the outside of the volcano, because the ogres worship the volcano itself as a thing of the Great Maw, which is essentially like a giant gaping mouth which forever hungers, which they worship. So the dwarves let them continue the worship of the volcano as long as they provided and hunted food for them, and the dwarves will provide weapons and such. I linked into my ogre army, because my ogre army, the main thing is that they had, like, instead of the normal ogre belly plates, I gave them dwarf shields. So the dwarf gave them shields to use, and they thought, oh, these are great belly plates to protect me. Then the dwarves would, because I have an unbuilt Beastclaw Raiders army, essentially the dwarves were using them train the beasts around to fight the chaos that was besieging him. Now, it was going to lead essentially into them having found the nest of a magma dragon underneath the volcano, and they used the ogres to train it and everything. Now, obviously, ogres working with dwarves is, I suppose, somewhat unbelievable in the lore itself, but essentially, I was seeing the ogres as kind of mercenaries anyway. As long as there's plenty to eat and plenty of stuff coming their way, the dwarves could provide superior weapons than what their own blacksmiths could make. So I didn't see a problem with it really. Anyway, once the Age of Myth was over, the Age of Sigmar began, where Sigmar came forth again and drove chaos from the lands, and they relinked with lost cities and civilizations, and that was one of my dwarf ones essentially. That he came out and broke the siege and helped the descendants, because time had passed, and obviously it had been a long time. It was like 100 years, I think it was. A dwarf is not probably too long, I suppose. But yeah, so that's my current dwarf army. What I'm planning to do, this is kind of an alternate timeline where they found the iron still. That's the same, but then they got corrupted by it, because actually the black iron was kind of tainted by chaos, and unfortunately, with them being besieged for so long, the siege lasted just a little bit too long, and the various rune priests and stuff started to hear the whispers of chaos, the whispers of Hashut. If Hashut is still a god in the new one, I think he is, to be honest, but a lot of stuff still named after him for that army. And then instead of becoming like a union with the ogres, they enslaved them. They used their superior weapons to go and just enslave the local ogre tribes, and then they joined the cause of chaos. The whole reason behind the black iron stuff, it was a cop out, to be honest with you. It's there to stop me painting too many colours on things, because I'm not the best painter in the world. So I want to try and limit my colour palette, but still make it stand out quite a bit. So black and gold, essentially. It's a bit of a cheap excuse, but I don't mind. But yeah, so that's the general idea behind them. So I mean, with the Death Streak rocket, that's going to be manned by ogres and such. So the scale would hopefully not be too bad looking at it at the end of the day. But I don't know. It could work. It could not. I like to think, because the Death Streak rocket launcher for the Forge World is actually quite a large model, but the rocket supplies are very small. There is a normal rocket launcher in the Empire or Free People's range. Ironwood Arsenal, I think it's actually under nowadays, and that's the Hellstorm rocket launcher, and that's a lot smaller as well. That's more like a traditional kind of Black Powder style rocket launcher sort of thing. But I like the idea that with the kind of demon infused technology, the chaos infused technology, it's going to be like a huge thing. Because I mean, it can get up to 46 attacks in its thing. I know only got the two missiles. I reckon that can be represented by them just shattering essentially. So I like the idea of them making these huge kind of missiles which just shriek through the sky, and when they hit, there's just a massive kind of demonic fire and gunpowder explosion. So I think I can play it off as that. It's going to take a lot of work, I mean, to do, because like I say, it's massive, and it's kind of cool, to be honest with you, but it's just this massive kind of thing. But I mean, that's a project for the future sort of thing. Hopefully get two of them out of that. Still looking for a way to make a Dreadquake mortar, which is the other one I want. I think looking at it, the only model I'm probably going to use from the Chaos Dwarf range is the Demon Smith, because the Forge World one is very nice. I'll probably use that, just maybe make it fit more in line with my guys. The general model I want to use is the Belagar Iron Hammer model, which is it's a very nice one, and it actually comes with the shield isn't a part of his arm, so I can put the pistol on that, and I'm going to do a crack on the Oath Stone, but again, more for the future on that one. So what I'll do, I'll put another couple of guys together, and this could be it for the video, to be fair. Depends. Cheers very much if it is. Thank you very much. Right, okay. Considering it's taken me most of the lethal weapon to get one model done. So that's an hour and a half on one model. I'm probably going to call it a day there. I've put together the champion, who has a, as you can see, the axe and the pistol, as the champions have in those units of the Chaos Dwarves. I think the curve files have helped. I think they were a good investment. It looks like they've... it's still obviously rough, a little bit of rough bits left. Focus, comes down trouble focusing. But I think it has done a lot better. I think what I'm going to do is the champions are going to have the head spared, and the beards, the full beards. I think I might do them as kind of minor nobles, so they can have the head spared where everyone else is enclosed armor. So I always like the enclosed armor look. And drill a little hole in the end of the pistol for it. But yeah, I think it's better than this guy. I mean, I'm sure my camera will actually be able to focus on two at once, which is thingy, but yeah, you can see the slight difference. Yeah, I think it's going to go well. But an hour and a half on each miniature is it's a bit of a pain, to be honest. I'd rather try and really speed it up. But I mean, I'm not really rushing. I've got no reason to rush. They're not going to be going onto a table or anything anytime soon. It's a long-term project, and it is nice to just have something to do, really. So I'm spending my days off a bit more productively. Yeah, so I mean, that's ongoing for the future on there. I thought I'd just break out one of my old Iron Drakes just to give you an idea of what the colour scheme is going to be like. So as you can see, we've got... Wait to get my little stand. As you can see, we've got the black and the gold, and then the chainmails are kind of grey on that one. So instead of the colour there, which is Balthazar gold, I'm going to use Hashut copper. I'm not too sure it's going to make a major difference between the two, to be honest with you. But yeah, basically I'm not the best of painters, so it is a little bit messy, even though it's technically a finished model, but you know, it's a while ago. Yeah, so that's that's an Iron Drake. I'm going to use, I think, that, and then put for the range units for the Chaos Dwarfs, I'm going to put like a bayonet made of one of the weapons on the bottom of the dragon. I think the dragon design itself is still very good. The kind of, you got that kind of demony, dragony look. And we clip the back so it looks more like a head sort of thing than a dragon head. But yeah, so as you can see, I went for the kind of black look, the black iron look, just to save colours essentially, to make it less effort to paint through. But yeah, that's hopefully what these guys should look like. So yeah, I'm going to call it a day there. Thank you very much for watching if you have watched this far. And hopefully I'll see you again soon. Cheers.